Las Vegas, August 11th, 2011, 3:22 a.m. The Golden Crown Casino hummed with its usual late-night energy as die-hard gamblers, fed slot machines and poker players chased impossible hands at green felt tables. But deep beneath the glittering casino floor, in sterile rooms where the real magic of Las Vegas happened, Luis Ortega was about to rewrite the rules of the game forever. Security cameras captured what appeared to be the most routine sight in casino operations. A money room clerk methodically sealing bundles of cash, stacking them with mechanical precision, and logging totals on forms that would balance the casino's books. Negresses. Lewis moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who had performed these exact motions thousands of times over 6 years. Just another invisible cog in the vast machine that converted dreams into dollars. He wheeled cart after cart toward the staging area where millions of dollars waited for transport to the main vault. Each movement captured by surveillance systems that recorded everything but noticed nothing. To anyone watching the monitors, it was business as usual in the bowels of America's gambling capital. But hidden beneath layers of standard casino laundry in one particular cart lay $39 million in cash, more money than most people would see in 10 lifetimes, stolen with such elegant simplicity that it would take hours before anyone realized what had happened. At 3:22 a.m., Lewis calmly pushed that cart through a service corridor, past a half-asleep security guard who had seen him make similar trips countless times before. By 3:38 a.m., he had loaded every dollar into his decade-old Honda Civic and disappeared into the Nevada desert, leaving behind the most audacious inside theft in Las Vegas history. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to smash that like button if you're already hooked. Drop a comment below, letting me know what city or country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories reach around the world. And hit that subscribe button with notifications on so you never miss when we drop the next unbelievable true crime case. Seriously, this story gets even crazier, so let's jump right in. Luis Antonio Ortega arrived in Las Vegas in February 2005, carrying nothing but a high school diploma, basic English skills, and the universal dream of making it in America's city of endless possibility. At 23, he was another face in the endless stream of young men drawn to the Nevada desert by stories of overnight fortunes and easy money. The reality was far different. Luis found work through a temporary employment agency, taking whatever jobs were available, stocking shelves, washing dishes, cleaning hotel rooms. The pay was minimum wage, the hours were brutal, and the tips were non-existent. But Luis was patient, hardworking, and desperate enough to accept whatever opportunities presented themselves. In June 2005, Luis got the break he thought would change his life: a permanent position as a cash handling clerk at the Golden Crown Casino. The job paid $15 an hour, more than double minimum wage, and came with benefits that seemed luxurious to someone who had been living without health insurance or paid time off. The Golden Crown's money room was a windowless fortress buried 3 levels beneath the casino floor, accessible only through multiple security checkpoints and staffed by employees who had passed extensive background investigations. Luis felt honored to be trusted with such sensitive work, handling millions of dollars in cash that flowed through the casino's operations every single day. His responsibilities were straightforward but critical: sort cash by denomination, count and bundle bills into precise amounts, verify totals against computer records, and prepare sealed bags for transport to the main vault. The work required intense concentration, mathematical precision, and absolute honesty, qualities that Luis possessed in abundance during his early years at the Golden Crown. Luis shared a small apartment with 2 roommates in a rundown complex 15 miles from the Strip, commuting to work in a Honda Civic that seemed older than his casino employment. His life followed a simple pattern: work, sleep, and occasional trips to the grocery store where he clipped coupons and calculated the cost of every purchase. For the first 3 years, Luis was the model employee. He arrived early, stayed late when needed, and never questioned the overtime assignments that helped him earn enough money to slowly pay down the credit card debt he had accumulated during his period of unemployment. His supervisors praised his accuracy, his reliability, and his discretion, the perfect qualities for someone trusted with handling the casino's most liquid assets. But by 2008, something began to change in Luis's relationship with the endless streams of money that passed through his hands daily. The economic recession had hit Las Vegas hard, reducing casino revenues and eliminating the overtime opportunities that had supplemented Luis's income. His roommates lost their jobs, forcing Luis to cover their share of rent while they searched for new employment that became increasingly scarce. Luis began working second jobs on his days off: dishwashing, landscaping, anything that would provide additional income. But even with 80-hour work weeks, he was barely maintaining his standard of living while watching millions of dollars pass through his hands every single day at the Golden Crown. The psychological impact of poverty amid abundance became increasingly difficult to ignore. Luis counted more money in a single shift than most people earned in a year, but he couldn't afford to fix his car's broken air conditioning or replace shoes that had holes in the soles. The contrast between the wealth he handled professionally and the poverty he experienced personally created a resentment that grew stronger with each passing month. By 2009, Luis had begun to view his work differently. Instead of feeling honored to be trusted with the casino's money, he began to feel exploited. The Golden Crown generated hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue annually, but Luis's wages had remained essentially frozen since his hiring. The executives whose bonuses he helped count could afford mansions and luxury cars, while Luis worried about making rent payments on a shared apartment. The transformation from loyal employee to potential thief occurred gradually, almost imperceptibly. Luis didn't wake up one morning and decide to rob the casino. Instead, he slowly began to see opportunities where he had previously seen only responsibilities. His detailed knowledge of the money room's procedures, gained through years of faithful service, became intelligence that could be used against his employer. Luis started paying attention to things he had never noticed before. When supervisors left the money room unattended, which cameras had blind spots, how long bags of cash sat waiting for transport to the vault. His professional expertise in cash handling became criminal expertise in theft planning. The final psychological barrier fell in early 2010, when Luis learned that his annual raise would be 50 cents per hour, barely enough to offset the increasing cost of living, while the casino's executives received bonuses worth millions of dollars. Dollars for their outstanding performance in managing the company through difficult economic times. That night, Luis looked at the mountains of cash surrounding him in the money room and realized that $15 an hour was his reward for helping other people become wealthy. The money belonged to the casino legally, but morally, Luis had begun to believe that he deserved a larger share of the wealth he helped create and protect. Luis Ortega's transformation from trusted employee to criminal mastermind occurred over 18 months of careful observation and meticulous planning. His position in the Golden Crown's money room had given him access to information and opportunities that most casino employees never encountered, and his growing resentment provided the motivation to view that access through increasingly criminal eyes. The money room operated on principles of efficiency and trust that created vulnerabilities Luis had never noticed during his early years of employment. Cash from slot machines, table games, and cage transactions flowed through the facility in predictable patterns, processed by small teams of clerks who worked with minimal supervision during overnight shifts. Luis began documenting these patterns with the systematic approach of someone conducting academic research. He noted which supervisors worked which shifts, how long cash bags typically sat in staging areas before vault transport, and when security personnel conducted their rounds through the money room areas. What had once been routine work became intelligence gathering for the crime of his life. The Golden Crown's cash handling procedures had been designed to prevent external theft and employee skimming, but they contained assumptions that Luis began to identify and exploit. The system assumed that employees would steal small amounts over time rather than attempting massive single thefts. It assumed that multiple employees would be required for major thefts, creating opportunities for detection through insider cooperation. Most critically, it assumed that trusted long-term employees would remain honest indefinitely. Luis realized that his 6 years of perfect employment had made him essentially invisible to security scrutiny. Supervisors trusted him completely, colleagues respected his expertise, and security guards recognized him as a fixture in areas where unauthorized personnel would trigger immediate investigation. His reliability had become camouflage that would allow him to commit crimes while appearing to perform legitimate work. The technical challenges of stealing millions of dollars from a casino money room were significant, but not insurmountable for someone with Luis's knowledge and access. The main obstacles were physical: how to remove large volumes of cash without detection, and logistical: how to transport and conceal the money until it could be safely converted into usable assets. Luis's solution demonstrated both criminal sophistication and intimate knowledge of the Golden Crown's operational procedures. Instead of trying to smuggle money out of the building in small amounts over time, he would execute a single massive theft using the casino's own systems to transport the stolen cash past security checkpoints. The key insight was understanding that the money room's laundry carts were subject to minimal security scrutiny because they contained materials that were obviously not valuable. Guards might inspect briefcases or suspicious packages, but laundry carts filled with used towels and cleaning supplies were part of the building's invisible infrastructure. Luis began experimenting with concealment techniques, learning how much cash could be hidden beneath laundry and cleaning supplies without creating obvious weight or bulk that might attract attention. His tests revealed that a standard laundry cart could conceal approximately $40 million in bundled cash while maintaining a completely natural appearance. The timing of the theft required careful analysis of the Golden Crown's cash flow patterns. Luis needed maximum money available for theft while minimizing the time before the theft would be discovered. His research revealed that Sunday nights after major poker tournaments created optimal conditions, maximum cash accumulation, and minimum supervisory presence. Luis also had to solve the problem of converting stolen cash into usable wealth without triggering the reporting requirements that would expose him to law enforcement. His research into money laundering techniques led him to understand that the key was moving money quickly through multiple channels before investigators could trace the transactions. During 2010 and early 2011, Luis began preparing the infrastructure necessary for his escape and money laundering. He rented storage units under false names, opened bank accounts in multiple states, and researched countries that offered banking privacy and protection from American law enforcement cooperation. The psychological preparation was as important as the technical planning. Luis had to overcome a lifetime of law-abiding behavior and transform himself from someone who followed rules into someone capable of betraying the trust that had been placed in him for 6 years. By summer 2011, Luis had identified August 11th as the optimal date for his theft. The World Series of Poker tournament would conclude that weekend, creating maximum cash flow through the Golden Crown systems. Security would be focused on managing tournament crowds rather than monitoring internal operations. Most importantly, Luis would be working the Sunday night shift with minimal supervision and maximum access to the facilities he needed to execute his plan. As August approached, Luis Ortega had evolved from a loyal employee into a sophisticated criminal enterprise of one. Armed with detailed knowledge of his target's vulnerabilities and motivated by years of resentment at counting money he would never be allowed to keep, Sunday, August 11th, 2011, began like countless others for Luis Ortega, who arrived at the Golden Crown Casino for his 10 p.m. shift carrying the same worn gym bag he had used for 6 years. The building was still buzzing with energy from the World Series of Poker tournament that had concluded earlier that evening, and the money room was preparing to process the largest single-day cash volume in the casino's history. Luis clocked in at 10:03 p.m., exchanged casual greetings with his coworkers, and began his routine inspection of the equipment and supplies he would need for the night's work. To everyone around him, he appeared completely normal, perhaps slightly more focused than usual, but nothing that would attract attention or concern. The money room contained approximately $60 million in cash that night, the accumulated revenue from 3 days of intensive tournament play plus regular casino operations. The money was organized in standard bundles, sealed in transport bags, and staged in designated areas according to procedures that Luis had followed thousands of times. For the first 4 hours of his shift, Luis performed his duties with the same methodical precision that had made him a trusted employee. He processed cash from slot machines, counted and bundled table game revenues, and prepared sealed bags for transport to the main vault. His work was accurate, efficient, and completely routine. But at 2:15 a.m., as the money room entered its quietest period and supervisory attention was minimal, Luis began implementing the plan he had developed over 18 months of careful preparation. The theft itself was elegantly simple, relying on Luis's legitimate access and trusted status rather than complex technical methods or dramatic criminal behavior. Luis began selecting specific cash bundles that totaled exactly $39 million, choosing currency that was scheduled for vault storage and would not be immediately missed during routine processing. Instead of placing the selected cash in standard vault transport bags, Luis diverted it into bags marked overflow storage, a designation that existed for handling excess cash during peak periods, but was rarely used and poorly monitored. The mislabeled bags appeared completely legitimate to casual observation and would pass through normal security procedures without triggering investigation. At 3:10 a.m., Luis began the transportation phase of his theft, loading the mislabeled cash bags into a standard laundry cart along with towels, cleaning supplies, and other materials that provided perfect camouflage for his criminal cargo. The cart's weight was significant, but not unusual for someone transporting industrial laundry and cleaning equipment. Luis had practiced this loading procedure dozens of times during his planning phase, developing techniques that allowed him to conceal $39 million beneath legitimate laundry while maintaining a completely natural appearance. The concealment was sophisticated enough that even detailed inspection might not reveal the hidden cash. At 3:22 a.m., Luis began pushing the loaded cart through the Golden Crown service corridors toward the loading dock where he had positioned his Honda Civic earlier that evening. The route he had selected avoided areas of maximum security while utilizing corridors where his presence would appear routine to any security personnel who might observe him. The most dangerous moment of Luis's theft occurred when he encountered security guard Robert Martinez near the loading dock area. Martinez was conducting a routine patrol and briefly spoke with Luis about the weekend's tournament activities. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes and ended with Martinez wishing Luis a good night as he continued his patrol route. Luis later realized that Martinez's casual demeanor during their conversation indicated that nothing about Luis's appearance or behavior suggested criminal activity. The security guard saw exactly what Luis intended him to see: a trusted employee handling routine work during an overnight shift. At 3:38 a.m., Luis completed loading $39 million into his Honda Civic and began driving away from the Golden Crown Casino. The theft had taken exactly 23 minutes to execute. From the moment Luis began selecting cash bundles to the moment he drove off the casino property with the largest single theft in Nevada history. Luis's route out of Las Vegas had been planned to avoid traffic cameras and police patrol areas that might later provide evidence of his movements. He drove north through suburban neighborhoods toward Interstate 15, where he could blend into anonymous highway traffic heading toward Utah. By 4:15 a.m., Luis was crossing into Arizona with $39 million in cash and a carefully planned escape route that would take him far from Las Vegas before the theft was discovered. Behind him, the Golden Crown Casino continued its normal operations, completely unaware that its money room had just been robbed by one of its most trusted employees. The theft had been executed with such professional precision and apparent legitimacy that it would be hours before anyone realized that Luis Ortega and $39 million had vanished together into the American Southwest. On Monday, August 12, 2011, Golden Crown Casino day shift supervisor Patricia Valdez began her inspection of the money room after a record weekend from the World Series of Poker. Instead of routine chaos, she found serious discrepancies. Cash bags marked overflow storage were missing, and the numbers didn't match the logs. After an hour of failed checks, she called in Security Director Michael Torres, who quickly determined that $39 million was gone. Not a clerical error, but theft. Surveillance showed Luis Ortega working normally until his final hour, when he pushed a heavy laundry cart to the loading dock. Cameras later caught him transferring items into his car and leaving at 3:41 a.m., past his shift. By mid-morning, he was the prime suspect. When officers checked his apartment, it was stripped bare. He had canceled his lease and utilities days earlier. Investigators then found his Honda Civic abandoned at McCarran Airport with keys inside. Security footage showed Luis entering the terminal with suitcases, but he vanished in the crowd. In reality, he had erased nearly all ties to Las Vegas in the weeks before, preparing for a clean escape. For the casino, it was a nightmare. Executives downplayed the loss publicly, while the FBI and private investigators uncovered flaws in security procedures that Ortega had exploited after 6 years inside. By Tuesday night, 36 hours later, he had disappeared without a trace. The case, one of the largest internal thefts in Las Vegas history, would puzzle authorities for years as Ortega's meticulous planning left no trail to follow. Luis Ortega's disappearance was planned with the same precision as his theft from the Golden Crown Casino. The abandoned Honda Civic at McCarran Airport was a ruse. The man on security footage was a paid double. Luis himself had already prepared a U-Haul truck stocked with supplies at a storage facility outside Las Vegas. By dawn on August 12th, while casino executives discovered the loss, he was driving east on back roads, avoiding patrols. His first stop was a storage unit in Grand Junction, Colorado, rented months earlier under a false identity. There, he sealed the stolen $39 million into waterproof packages and sorted bills to avoid detection through serial numbers. Luis had studied laundering techniques and began converting cash into cashier's checks in small amounts below federal reporting thresholds, visiting hundreds of banks across the Southwest under multiple stolen identities. By spring 2012, he had laundered about $15 million and reinvented himself in Phoenix as Michael Rodriguez. He invested in laundromats and car washes, cash-heavy businesses that legitimized his money while also turning a profit. Outwardly modest, he drove average cars, lived in middle-class neighborhoods, and avoided extravagance that might draw attention. Luis had transformed from an underpaid casino employee into a man with wealth, security, and a new identity. Yet every transaction, every partnership carried risk. By 2013, he had accomplished what few criminals achieve, escaping with the money and building a new life. But his survival depended on the same discipline that made the heist possible, never attracting the wrong kind of notice.